Hey guys, hey internet, it's Inkeater, and welcome to tonight's time lapse. So we're continuing our Dead and Loving It series like we did last week. So in case you missed it, we came back to YouTube and we drew Edgar Allan Poe. In case you're curious about that, I will leave a link somewhere, either down below, up above, somewhere. And yeah, but tonight we are drawing Frida Kahlo. Frida Kahlo. She took about 50 minutes to ink, draw, and create. I really love how she came out. I did want to draw her with the flower headdress, but I thought, it's been overdone. Let me just do like simple Frida with the big earrings and the gaudy necklace. And yeah, so in case you are into some fun facts and you just want to see a time lapse of Frida Kahlo, definitely stay tuned. And yeah, enjoy the time lapse.
I'm seeing things that aren't real. I'm seeing things I shouldn't see. I'm dreaming things I've never seen.
You're beginning to think in images, concrete images.
Alright, so Frida Kahlo. Tonight we are drawing Frida. So, fun facts. So, Frida Kahlo was born in July 1907, on July 6th. She liked to tell people that she was born, and basically her birth coincided with the Mexican Revolution, but that was 3 years too early. She told people her birthday was July 7th, 1910, instead of telling them it was July 6th, 1907, which I think is kind of funny, because you wanted to be like that figure, especially with her life. I mean, in the crazy life that she led. Not crazy so much, but basically she was her own person. Known as a Mexican painter, and she's known for many self-portraits. Her work is inspired by nature and a lot of the artifacts from Mexico. And she's known to basically put a lot of autobiographical information within her pieces, so they're very, very personal. She has this ability to basically mix realism with fantasy. She is known through the art world as basically a surrealist, which she herself didn't see herself that way, which is kind of interesting. Usually as creatives, we don't have a tendency to see ourselves the way that other people see us, which is kind of funny, and definitely relatable for me. I don't know about you guys. Anyway, so she was born to a German father and a mestiza mother. As a child, she was disabled by polio, and she often wore long skirts for this reason, because one of her legs was a lot thinner than the other. Anyway, she was a promising medical student who had desires to basically, I believe, draw a lot of the specimens type situation. I could be wrong about that. I read that somewhere. Correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments below. That is until she had an accident. I think it was at 18, which basically caused her lifelong pain and a shit ton of medical problems. So during her recovery, basically, she returned to her childhood hobby of drawing, and she had this idea of, hey, you know what, screw it, I'll become an artist, which is kind of interesting because she's known to have basically created a ton of self-portraits, and she's basically known as the master of self-portraits. So honestly, doesn't that make her the master of the selfie? Anyway, that could just be me. Let me know down in the comments below. But through her life, basically she got interested in politics, and basically art led her to discover the Mexican Communist Party in 1927, where she met fellow Mexican artist Diego Rivera. The couple married in 1928 and spent the late 20s and 30s traveling through Mexico and the United States together. And it's kind of crazy. They didn't necessarily have the best relationship, and they quite often fought. And she was quite often known as Diego Rivera's wife instead of Frida Kahlo, which is kind of interesting because it's kind of a reverse now, that people know much more about her than him, which it's kind of interesting how times change and history changes in little ways where you refer to one party more than the other. Anyway, let me know your thoughts about that down in the comments below. And at some point, her paintings caught the eye of Andre Breton, who basically arranged for Frida Kahlo's first solo exhibition in New York in 1938. And he described her work, which I think is kind of interesting because it's so true. He basically described her work as a ribbon around a bomb, which is so true when you look at her work. Basically, the exhibition was a success and was followed by another one in Paris in 1939. While it wasn't as successful as the New York, the museum in France, the Louvre, purchased a painting from Kahlo. The Frame, I believe, is what it was called, making her pretty much the first Mexican artist to be featured in their collection, which that all to itself is like number one, man. I don't know, like, I think it's really badass. Like, you know, she's probably like, hell yeah, or at least I want to say that she was thinking hell yeah at the time. Anyway, so through the 40s, Kahlo participated in several exhibitions through Mexico, the United States, and basically worked as an art teacher. During her last year, she stayed mainly confined in Casa Azul, which is basically known today as the Frida Kahlo Museum in Mexico, which is definitely on my bucket list. I don't know if anybody else who's listening to this has actually been to Mexico, seen this, because I would be curious to see your thoughts. I've seen pictures from several of my friends, especially my friend Priscilla, who just recently went to Mexico, and she was just at Casa Azul, and she gave a taste of it through her Facebook page, and man, I want to go. Anyway, let me know if you've ever been, because I'm kind of curious about other people's experiences there. So pretty much she stayed at Casa Azul, and she painted still lifes and portraits of fruit and flowers and, you know, political symbols like flags and doves. And then, finally in Mexico, she finally has her first solo show. And that took place April of 1953, and it was at the gallery, the Contemporary Art Gallery that happened to be there. Basically, Kahlo's work remained, I think it's kind of interesting how she kind of dived under the radar from the 50s onward, and then it wasn't until the 70s when basically this Mexican art was becoming popular in terms of history and time, that it pushed her to the forefront. And so in the 70s, you have basically all these art historians, these political activists rediscovering her work and how amazing it is. And by the 90s, she had basically become a recognized figure in art history. But also, she was also an icon for Chicanos and the feminist movement and basically the LGBT movement too. And I think it's kind of interesting how she's blown up over time. I mean, you've got Barbie, you've got all of these objects that basically represent her. And I know, I want to say did some apparel with her face on it. I could be wrong. I know that they recently did Vincent van Gogh, so I could be confusing artists. But I want to say they did something with Frida. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the drawing, and yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the time lapse. If you guys did, definitely hit the like button down below. In case you really, really loved this doodle, I will leave a link down to my Etsy store in case you want to purchase a button. I usually sell those in my Etsy shop. A lot of the portraits I sell in my Etsy shop. In case you see something that isn't in my Etsy shop, definitely feel free to ask. But yeah, in case you really like the button. I really like it as a button. It's kind of cool, like figuratively, like the whole thing. Thinking of making some prints with all the characters that I've drawn this in this last 30 days that we'll be sharing. But yeah, that's a story for another day. Hope you guys are doing awesome, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Bye.
Whatever it is that you believe you're seeing, it's not real.
Seeing things before they happen.
Things are not always what they seem in this place. So you can't take anything for granted.